All right, so let's get to, we're going to do this front nose first as far as repairs. And I'm not going to worry about any holes or gaps. I just want to get the base, this base part glued in here. Best as possible. Then we can work around that. But the first thing we'll notice here is this is supposed to be straight. This is some compression and bending due to the impact. Because when it hit in the corner, here's basically where it hit, was right here, this corner. So when that hit, it pushed this like that, which caused this to malform. So the technique here is going to be to line this up here, the top and the bottom, and then we can see where it's supposed to. See, it should go straight along the line there, and kind of tough to do with two hands here, but you'll see this right here should be underneath this here, so it should come straight across. So what we're going to do is we're just going to try to reform it with our hands here. Just kind of squeeze it and bend it. You can't really uncompress it, but you can kind of massage it back to where it should be. And again, we're not going for perfection here. I'm not going to completely cut this out and rebuild it. No way. No way. Not worth my time. I want to fly. I don't want to build. So somebody who's really into building, you know, might want to cut this thing completely apart, make a new piece and form it and sand it and blah, blah, blah. Not me. I just want it back together. I want it to look decent and be solid. You can have a solid, fixed foam plane that isn't a perfect showpiece. And that's pretty much where I'm at in the hobby at this point. So we can see it's a little bit better. I mean, it's not perfectly straight, but at least it's lining up slightly, kind of. So that's what, you know, we'll do here. Just massage this, try to massage this back into place. So I'm putting pressure with my finger here, and I'm pushing my thumb. So I'm kind of going like this. So I'm pushing my thumb in while holding this there, and just trying to manipulate that foam. And I guess I'm kind of compressing it, recompress it back into shape. So it's close enough. And when we glue it to the top piece, that'll hold it in place good enough. So we're already a lot straighter. Not bad. We saw how bowed out it was previous, and I'm probably going, when I'm all done, I probably am going to go over all this, maybe with a lightly sand it and make it look as smooth as possible, and hit it with an airbrush, which I'm going to go out and buy. The $300 airbrush rig I got somehow got lost in the shuffle when I closed my arcade down and cleaned my basement out, so I'll have to buy a new one. I'll definitely buy one. I'll respray all this. So when it's done, I'm gonna get it as smooth as I can and respray, blend it into the rest of the plane. But I mean, that's pretty much what we're gonna do here with all the existing pieces. We're just gonna massage them, and I am squeezing it and thinning it out a little bit, but I really don't care, because once it's glued into place, it'll be firm enough to work. This is still, it's got a crack in it here. Let's see that crack? I'll show you how I'm going to inject the hot glue into that when we glue it. So that's what you want to do. You want to massage any pieces back into place that are bent up. And that's probably going to be good enough for me right there. And that is a lot better. I mean, if you rewind the video back, you'll see that's not that bad. And that's up here. This is just going to need to be any spots where it's coming apart. See that right there? We definitely have some cracks that need to be filled there. And I'll show you some techniques to fill the cracks without ripping it apart. Because again, once it's all together, you know, the glue holding it together in all the different places are going to reinforce it. So luckily, one thing I'll say about this is that The way it broke, the canopy should fit on here no problem because I don't see any compression up in here really too bad. I just see more cracks. So this is good enough for this piece. I think that's massaged back in place good enough for me. And there's nothing really to do over here. This is all broke off nice and clean. So this is ready to glue on, as far as I'm concerned. This is ready to glue on. Nothing over here. We have a little dirt in here. You can always sand that out. The hot glue is going to fuse that foam. It's not only going to stick to it, it's going to start melting that foam a little bit. So I'm not too worried about the glue sticking where we got some grass smudged in there. So I would say this is ready to glue on, which is like the big piece here. Once this is glued on, it would be good to go. We do have to still glue this together, the actual two halves of the nose. So we'll glue the nose together. The nice thing about hot glue is you get like instant gratification, right? You glue it together, hold it nice and tight for a few minutes, and boom, you're done. You can go on to the next piece. All right, we're going to take a close look at these inlets here and what we're going to do. Again, this is going to be the toughest part. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not going to go too crazy unless I feel I need to. But I really, really, really would like to keep all of this in place. But I don't know. Once I start massaging this foam back into place, I don't know what we're going to get as far as we want it to look pretty close to the other side. And it's not actually that bad. This is really compressed right here. As you can see, that's where it hit. I mean, that's where it came down on. That's where all the damage is really done, all the impact, and everything else is just residual from there. I believe I'm probably going to cut out this, and you see where it's broken here. This piece here is still solid, and we're going to massively compressed right here. So I'm probably going to, right along this line here, I'm probably going to remove all this where the seam is at here. And I think I can keep everything from here down. So I might only just need to replace this piece right here. There's no way I'm massaging this back into place. That ain't gonna happen. And we can Dollar Tree foam this. We can laminate 2 pieces and get a thick enough piece in here. So I'm gonna try to massage this back into place right here. All right, so I'm going to try to bend this out as best I can here. Hopefully I can get this on camera. So it's just like you're gonna get some foam's gonna break. So don't worry about it breaking, but try to kind of squeeze and massage it as best you can to get it back, to its original form. And if it breaks, it is pretty much meant to. So what I'm doing is I'm putting pressure on this and pushing it from the inside. If you can see it, it's kind of hard to see with the camera, but basically just trying to get this to be close to the same shape that it was. And I'm probably going to reinforce this with some thin plywood. All you old schoolers would be proud. See, I told you needed some balsa and plywood. And we'll see exactly where this is supposed to line up once, well, actually that's not going to line up to anything because it's a separate piece. So I think I'm just going to rip this out right now. This is pretty much, there's no way I'm going to get that back to where it needs to be. So once we get that piece out, actually if you look at it now, we can push this down and we'll glue this back together. I might end up snapping these pieces completely off just so I can glue them on both sides, as it just broke right there anyway, as you can see. So, but that's okay. That's not, the glue's stronger than the foam any day of the week. So if we got to re-glue something, it's not a big deal. But if we get that down, now this is looking pretty normal, right? Get this glue down here. Now we're like, not so bad. I might replace this here. It's pretty compressed. But realistically, if we look at that, doesn't look horribly bad as it is right now. That looks pretty close to the other side. Very close. I mean, I could live with that, to be honest. This is my final. If I just glued this really quick right now, boom, boom, and put a half-ass piece there, I could live with that, but I'm gonna try to make it a little bit better. And I'm gonna strengthen this up inside here with some ply. I'm definitely gonna do that. So I think I was originally gonna chop this piece out from here to here. But I think I'm gonna keep it the original piece with some ply, gap fill, sand, and airbrush it, because right now I think that it's not. Well, let me see if we push. This is a little flat. This needs not quite as. This needs a curve a little more. I need to flatten this out. And what I'll probably do is I'll show you a reinforcing technique for this foam because this foam, like, if this foam's normally pretty stiff. Once you start manipulating, once it crashes and compresses, it's got a lot of bend to it. So there's a technique I use with hot glue. I'll show you that just to give this some reinforcement. It's not going to make it stiff again like this, but it's at least going to reinforce it so it doesn't get too wobbly, which isn't going to matter with this because all we have is air going through here. But if we take this and say we line this up the way it's supposed to be, we're not bad. We're not too bad. I mean, it's not quite the same as the other side, but again, we can only do so much here without like doing a complete rebuild, which I'm not going to do. So we'll just reinforce this with some ply here and then some ply in the bottom to help flatten it out a little bit. But I think right now, if we put that new piece in and we make it just wide enough, this piece in here, to push this down, we now have what looks like a pretty good inlet. I could definitely live with that. So that's no gluing. That's just prepping. The thing you need to understand about this is it's not gluing it back together isn't really fixing it. It's prepping it and getting it ready to glue back together so the pieces glue snugly in place at the right angle and all that. That's really what fixing it is. If you just take and just glue back together really quick without reforming stuff and getting it lined up, it's going to look like shit. Now, the irony there is it's going to probably fly exactly the same as it would if I did what I'm doing now. But I do want this to look somewhat decent, right? And once we get some paint on this, and of course in the air you'll never notice it. So that actually isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Repairing this inlet, it looks close enough to the original for me. And all we need to do is add some Dollar Tree foam right here in this spot and reinforce it behind with some ply. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know where these, I think we're gonna have to make a piece right here. Once we get the nose on, we'll see what's missing in here. And that's going to be the key at this point. So right now, all we really need to do is we'll put the nose on and fill all our gaps. This is in good enough shape for me. I'll show you my technique. Probably have to do some sanding in here to get the ply on. We'll epoxy that ply, and it's gonna be 1/64 ply, super thin, and it's just gonna give this. Once we hold it in place. While it's glued, that ply will hold its shape the same as the foam. As long as we hold it in the exact place exact form that we want it, it'll hold. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty good. All right, so let's move on to another spot. So I did do one other thing after I stopped filming. I want to show you what I did. So this was getting a little concave. It was still pushed in, so this wasn't flat on this side. It basically went in like this to exaggerate what it's doing. So it was like indented in there, and I want this side flat. So we're back to manipulating the foam again, decompressing, compressing, whatever you can do to get the foam back to what looks good. So what I did here is, I'm gonna do it again, is I kind of take my fingers on the inside like this. And then these fingers on the outside, and I'm pushing like this, so the foam will, instead of being bent in like this, will be straightened out. So basically, I'm holding like this, and getting inside here with probably just one finger, my middle finger, and I'm starting back. Let me move the camera over here. I'm starting back here because the indentation starts here, and then it gets worse as it comes in. So you need to start back where it's actually happening, which will help it form all the way back out. So I'll just show you from the outside. Get my hand here. So my finger inside is right between these two fingers, and I'm just pushing it and bending that, working that foam. I'm in between that to bend out. Hopefully you can see here in the video. And maybe massaging it. Again, holding the figure here and then holding it up here and massaging that out. Now here I'm kind of, taking this finger and doing one of these with it to get the, to push that out. And it's one of those things you'll get with time. You'll see what I mean, but because that was really the only thing I looked at, and I saw that it still was looking like it wanted to push in. The foam really wasn't manipulated enough to come out so that inlet looks straight. So now that I've done that, and now it looks, I mean, see how wobbly this is? We'll reinforce it. That's what's going to get reinforced with the ply. Once we get the ply on there, now if we look down this side, it's far from perfect, but it's not. If I hold this in place, it's not really. The seam right here isn't indented anymore. Sorry, hold off the camera. So, and as you can see right here, you can see where it's still. This piece is still wanting to go in like this, right? Because that's the way it was damaged. So it's kind of retraining it to go where we want it to go. And that actually fixed that really good. So without even gluing it, it's actually sitting in place fairly well right now. I mean, it's not perfect for sure. Well, this is going to come out a little more. It's kind of deceiving, but even if it doesn't, this should come out. This should be bent out a little bit more. This inlet should be a little wider. And once we get this piece made, that'll help everything too. So, looking pretty good. Just right now, sitting there alone as it is, it's happy to be in this shape, kinda, which is good. So once we get our and of course this will be glued down. We can get that kind of. So if we look, we really only have a piece here and a piece here to make up for. And then reinforce back here, reinforce here. The shape of that as it is right now, I am perfectly happy with. I have zero problems with that. So once that's reinforced and we have these filler pieces back into place, then we'll just, then we have the nose. Once the nose is in place, back together, we really have minimal gap filling to do. And since this really isn't as bad as it originally looked as far as being completely blown out of shape, this nose snapped off. So when we get this back on, when I glue it, I'm going to make sure that it's as straight as it can be, but it should glue right. Since this isn't compressed here, and here, and we have no compression on the nose all the way around, this should glue actually right straight into place. Gluing it exactly as is should be straight, but I'll keep an eye on it to make sure it is straight. Once that glue's dried, this nose will be straight. Then all we have to do is gap fill. Of course, we'll have this done already. We're going to do this before we put the nose on. I was going to put the nose on first, but I think it's going to be a lot easier to work on this as is here. This is almost done. We're in really good shape right here. To fill this in is no problem at all. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So once the nose is on, this is filled, this is reinforced, the nose is on, then we just have gap filling. Then the wing and the servo chunk that's off is going to be pretty easy. So we're in pretty good shape right here. So we'll move on to the next, I think we'll move on to filling these pieces in here.